Come on. I wonder if I got the older computer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about apprenticeships. Apprenticeships have been around going back 1,000 years. Goes back long before that. In fact, it goes as far back as the terminology of hexa, esche, and strega, the definition of witchcraft. We most commonly see apprenticeships nowadays within religions such as the African Caribbean, or we see it in necromantic traditions. Anytime you go underneath Google and you type in necromancy, for an example, you're going to come up with a photo of two individuals, the master and the apprentice, standing in a cemetery. The African Caribbean traditions, such as Palo Mayombe, Palo Munti, Voodoo, Santeria, these are traditions that normally you're dealing with solitary practitioners. However, there is a hierarchy even in these traditions. And what's interesting to note is that in certain voodoo traditions, the practitioner has a master. You see, the teacher speaks orally. That's vocal. Okay? All their knowledge, all their experience within these traditions are passed down verbally. And this goes all the way back to ancient Gaelic systems of Druidism, Middle Eastern Hermetics, and Kabbalah systems as well. It's not just in witchcraft. More modern day pagan and Wiccan, they have their own style of doing things. However, there's always been two, teacher and the student. Most people do not realize that when you get into any given system, there's a period of learning. The Celtic Golden Dawn has a system that is you study and practice for 1 year, and then you have a day to reflect upon that year. Here, you are given the opportunity to either advance or find another system of sorcery that fits you as the individual. And it's ironic, really, because I actually like that system. The reason for that is because You get that day just to sit there and reflect upon every type of ritual that you've done in the last year. You get to reflect upon all the things that you've studied, all the things that you've learned. You get to sit there and go over your grimoires, your journals, and reflect and meditate upon it. And you get to decide whether that system is for you or if you want to evolve in that system by branching out into other systems and incorporating it into your current practice. More so, the teacher doesn't just teach you and show you the tools, the methodology. They speak on mythology, archaeology, history, astronomy, divination. We know that witchcraft has been defined by witchcraft, necromancy, divination, and possession. The four pivotal points within sorcery. So when these teachers come to you and take you on as an apprentice, number one, that is a great honor. It is an honor and a privilege for you to become an adept, an apprentice of that master sorcerer. Second of all, then most sorcerers are not going to take you under their wing and teach you because most today don't believe in sorcery. They believe in the idea of sorcery, but a lot of them do it from a modern pop culture perspective. And that's the issue. Most who get into sorcery realize that it is a path of solitude. It is a path of hardship. And it is a path of intense study and practice. The old magi, the old sages, would lock themselves away for a large period of time. For a large period of time. So they would not be disturbed. You look at, for an example, some of the old grimoires. Let's go with the Black Hen. There was a story in it where a photographer went to Africa, Egypt, Giza area. The platoon that he was accompanying was attacked, slaughtered. He himself was wounded. A man emerged from one of the temples and brought him in to the temple, nursed him back to life, taught him his ways, brought him riches, showed him all the tools, the rings, the geographical designs. Most importantly, the words of power. What spirits to call upon. And afterwards, this photographer went home after a long period of intense study. He copied the works down, And he went from sorcerer to sorcerer to sorcerer, trying to learn until he found somebody worthy to learn from. And the system finally made sense. The system made sense. And I found it interesting because when you're dealing with the master and apprentice relationships, a teacher will put forth a challenge from time to time. They will recommend things that will benefit their students. And the student can choose to take on that challenge. They can choose not to do that challenge. But what if it's something like a test? You see, masters will test you. They will try you to see how much you're learning. What are you willing to do? How far are you willing to take your sorcery? Most times today, you're not going to see this type of challenging. You're not going to see this level of relationships between the master and the apprentice. When you join a coven within Wiccan and paganism, you sworn a loyalty to that coven, to that way of life, and you are bound by those strict rules. The witch's creed, the witch's radi, and such. The threefold law of return. I can't tell you how many witchcraft books that I've read, that I've utilized within my own practices over the years. And each one has a different accumulation of rules, regulations, and conducts. And most of them were never heard of before 1974. But yet they hold on to them like a Christian holding a cross. The idealism of that internal life. It's ironic, really. You get into Satanism today, you got segregation, you have separation. If you're not a part of that foundation, they're not going to help you. You got the higher ups not doing anything to benefit you. You. The reason for that is because they want you to become self motivated. They want you to learn for yourself. You rise and fall like a phoenix at your own whims. But they don't put that challenge forth. They don't teach you or show you the materials. Where do you go to find sources on angelology, demonology, or even what grimoires work and what doesn't? You see, they don't do this because most today are not interested in bettering the community. You get on social media today, you have all these rules for Facebook groups, but yet nobody ever follows them. The admin don't back it up. In most of the groups, they say no bullying, no hate speech, no photos of whatever. And yet, that's all you see in these groups. Nothing but drama, nothing but adversities and chaos. Most times, people call themselves a Satanist because they want to feel important. and they simply post nothing but photos. The emoji, little smiley face, the blue thumb, but nobody takes the time to share knowledge. 95% don't share their knowledge. They don't even get involved in the lessons from those who are teaching. You see, this is the community that we call the left-hand path today. In the past, it was strict. It was strict. The old school way of sorcery. When your master tells you to do something, you do it. You listen, you learn, you grow, you evolve, because you are the apprentice. Now, what have I always said in my videos? Whatever you preach, always back it up with numerous sources, and always make yourself available to the public. Why? How do you know if something is factual? How do you know if it's factual, if it's been manifested reality? If somebody doesn't share with you from numerous different systems of magic, of sorcery, how would you know that these things existed and what works and what doesn't if somebody doesn't take the time to educate you on them? Instead, that whole keep silent stays right here, the forefront of your mind. And they just waver away. They shy away from teaching. What if this practitioner uses it against me? What if this happens? What if that happens? People worry too much about image. They worry too much about the what ifs and not about what has. In the old days, the apprentice left everything behind and they followed the master. The disciple always followed the master. Why? It's a state of humbleism, number one. It is a rite of passage, number two. And number three, it is about your evolution. It is about passing on that lineage of sorcery to continue it going. You see, sorcery is not said to be easy. It is not a path for the faint of heart, because most can't put on that bad guy badge, as Anton Zandalevay so colorfully called it. Most cannot stand to be hated, feared. Most cannot deal with the fact that you have to apply this to your life constantly. Sorcery is a full-time thing. It is applied to every aspect of your life, from dealing with family, friends, work, and most importantly, when you're dealing with spiritualism in general. It is that give and take. Remember those old saloon type doors that they use in Hollywood produced films? Take that imagery right there. That door goes both ways between you and the supernatural, the spirits that you call on and deal with. But how do you reach out? How do you invoke them? How do you evoke them? How do you conjure them if you have not been an apprentice? if you have not learned from the masters who have been there, who have walked what you're walking now. The truth is, you can't. I spent 30 years studying various different religions, practicing it. Most of them I was initiated into. The last 10 years, I've been teaching here, social media, Facebook, and YouTube. I've been hated, I've been despised, even feared. I've made a reputation for myself as an educator, a teacher. Quite a few see me as an elder, not just because I am an ordained minister. I teach so that you and everything that I've learned over the years can be carried on to a new generation, just like Aleister Crowley did with his books, just like Anton Zanderlei did with his books, just like Alistair Notch has done with his books and his YouTube channel. A lot of people hate and fear E.A. Koetting. At least that's the perception of it. But he has put out a lot of material in a story type setting. I find it interesting because Montecule Summers did the same thing in his works. Hans Holzer did the same thing in his books. And yet it's considered to be sci-fi. It's considered to be fictional. Unless you're a practitioner of that system. So when you think of the relationships between the master and the apprentice, I want you to think about these details. I want you to think, what is the perks of becoming an apprentice? What would you be willing to do to become an apprentice? But more so, what would you be willing to do to become a sorcerer or a sorceress? Be it a necromancer, Satanist, whatever. Every system has a hierarchy. Every system will make you work for it. They keep their traditions close to heart. For a reason. They teach the select few who truly want to master the arts, who wants to become more than a servant, somebody who wants to become more than a slave to society. Because once you start on that journey, you are no longer a part of society. You become an emissary of the spirits of that system. You become an ambassador of that system, a representative of the spirits. You belong to them, not the world. The necromancer, the shaman, they walk both worlds, a foot in both worlds. Why? Did you ever stop to wonder why? No. Everybody's so hung up on, I want, I need, that they don't stop to consider, what is it about this system that attracts me? Why am I attracted to this system? Why am I wanting to become an apprentice? Why am I seeking out an elder to learn from? See, most They don't do this. They only know their desire, their need. And that is why most fail. That is why most fail in their endeavors, because they treat it as a game. They treat it as a desire, a need. It is not any of these. The path of sorcery is a serious thing. It is a path of hardship, loneliness. But more so, it is a full-time career. It is a full-time lifestyle. It is not part-time. It is not sometime. Once you open those doors, there is no going back. Especially when you make the deals, you make the pacts with the spirits. You can have a person as an elder. You can have spirits teach you, but you have to be willing to. You have to open up your arms and let them guide you. This path will enlighten you on a lot of things. But if you're not willing to humble yourself, if you're not willing to learn and to put the work forth yourself, then why get into it? When I take on students, I guide them to the material, but it's up to them to do the work. All I can do as an elder is critique and guide. Your journey is your journey. Look at Homer's Odyssey for an example. I want you to pay attention to that. A lot of people, when they read this book, this work, or they watch the movie The Odyssey, they see it as a scary descent into the underworld, chaos, spiritual realms. And then they run back to the church. Why? Because they fear it. They're afraid of what they do not know. But they do not see that it is like a marathon, not a race. It's a journey of day-to-day life within these arts, within these practices, who you come across, how you represent yourself, the spirits in them, and what you do as a sorcerer or sorceress. Homer's Odyssey is a brilliant piece of work, just like Dante's Inferno. You have to understand the benefits of the journey, learning, studying, practicing, experimenting, walking the path full time, transcending the dimensions, the planes. There's a reason why they refer to it as evolution. Self-evolution, self-growth, self-mastery. You have to master yourself before you can master the world. Ever hear the term forged in sorcery? Think about it. Forget about these modern day pop culture bullshit because they're all fictional. You want to know about sorcery? You want to become an apprentice? You want to become a master eventually? Then you have to delve into the work. It is up to you as the individual. It is your personal responsibility. And that's the message. That is what I got to say today on apprenticeships. Hope it's been enlightening. Hope it's been educational. And until next time, have a good day.